So I had a friend, not me, a friend who was playing
Sure.
Candy Crush.
Sure, friend.
And the funniest thing, that he plays the game all the time, but refuses to put any money into it. The thing is that for him, the point of the game is to not pay for it. Now, mind you, the game's set up so that if you're not paying for it at a certain level, you know, if you're not doing the microtransactions, then it's going to take you forever, and it's annoying and it's frustrating.
You have to pester your friends in order for them to be like, you know, to get through and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, and he does that.
Oh God.
But or he could pay $1, right? But he refuses to pay the dollar.
Uh huh.
Even though it frustrates him and bugs the hell out of him.
Right.
He also refuses to stop playing the game. But he will not pay the dollar. For him, the game is to play the game without paying for it.
So he's created a game in itself
It's
within
a
the
metagame.
game.
It's a metagame.
Right.
It's a metagame of the metagame of microtransactions.
That in principle, the principle is that he doesn't want to pay for it.
Well, is it really a principle? I've heard people talk about microtransactions as like a moral thing. I refuse to give these people money,
Right.
to pay money for things in the game.
So the question becomes, you know, who's that going to hurt?
You mean from a game design perspective,
Like,
or
okay,
from other players?
Well, from other players, like it's a terrible game design perspective. Like, why would you make a game that's arguably like terrible to play?
Well, you don't set out trying to make a bad game.
But it's like
Here's the thing, there's a balance there.
No.
The great part about free to play, okay,
Right.
is that it's free.
right.
And so you get to play games that you would never ordinarily play. I mean, if it was a $60 game, you'd be like, I don't think so. But if it's a free-to-play game, you're like, let me try it out.
Yeah, and if a game is bad, a game is bad. It is
Right.
not going to succeed, but you can have a very successful, fun-to-play, free-to-play game.
The kind that I really find interesting, though, the microtransactions that I find interesting, are the ones where you pay for currency. Because that really stretches it kind of both ways. In some games, currency isn't that important, so it doesn't really matter. In some games, currency is kind of the whole point of the game. In EVE Online has a weird system. I'm not sure it's technically a microtransaction, but you can buy game time, and then they actually sell it as a token, an in-game token. And you can buy and sell this game time token in the game for in-game currency. I was trying to do some mining. I really wanted a better mining ship. That was kind of my goal, right? The goal that I set for myself was a new mining ship. It was around 25 million ISK. Now, I could grind for maybe 2 or 3 days, or I could spend 20 bucks, buy the Plex, sell it, get 650 million ISK, and then I could just buy my mining ship and then whatever else I wanted. It turns out the mining ship costs, you know, if you do the math, costs about $1. But the weird thing for me was that it wasn't about the dollar. It was about how it changed the game, because my goal was to get money. And then if I paid for the money, then, you know, I could get my ship, and that was fine. But then suddenly I'm out of goals. I've got, you know, another 600 million ISK. What am I going to do next? You know, it kind of, in a way, changes the game.
But the question comes down to fairness. Do you feel like the money that you would spend to usurp the time or to get around it, do you feel like that was worth it? Like, would you rather keep that dollar and then grind through the game to get whatever you're looking for?
It's not even about the dollar anymore. It's not, because it's
about how
dollar.
it changed the game for
Exactly.
you, and it fundamentally eliminated the goal that you were trying to achieve by circumventing it with slapping down the money to just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it's like, what do I do now? You know, I have all this money. Do I stop playing the game now that my goals, you know, I have no more goals?
yeah, and the thing about a game like this is you kind of have to set your own goals. And most of the time the goal is to save up enough money to buy something.
Right.
But if you've got an infinite amount of money, then suddenly your goals have to change.
But you don't have an infinite amount of money. You only have like so much money. And then like whatever you're looking at it, you bought a slightly larger mining vessel. Well, is there a slightly larger mining vessel than that mining vessel?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the next thing. But I mean, you take someone like Rohan here. I mean, he's got, the big time GT money. He's got his 2 mansions and his, fleet of Ferraris. I mean, he could spend, $200-300 in the game, buy whatever he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. But
hold on. I think that brings us to probably the controversial side of this, right? And this is where I have a big issue with microtransactions. When it's siloed off into something like Eve, where you make the choice, right? And there's no real competitiveness. It's like, okay, well, I'm faced with the dilemma. Do I invest the time to get this ship, or do I just pay the money to do it? When it comes down to like competitiveness, I think that there's a huge issue with that.
Well, I think it's not necessarily like everyone is scared of a pay to win sort of system. Like that's what comes up every so often, or every time when it's this microtransaction. Well, I don't want to pay to win system. I don't want to pay to win system. It's not the pay to win system that breaks the game. It's the system where they're going into it and they're manipulating the bits and pieces of the game itself and destroys the game that ruins it. The auction house, the Diablo's auction house. I mean, even though there was no PvP, the fact that they would go in and they would manipulate what's going to be a rare, what's going to be not a rare, what are you going to get this time? Is this item higher, is selling higher? Well, we're going to cut that item in half. Well, that screws up everyone else's game. I'm just playing a single player game and I just want to go through there and I want my legendary armor because I've sunk X amount of time into it and I just want to enjoy the game. But because there's this other tacked on sort of, microtransactions that I'm not even a part of, that's messing with the game. That's messing with me and my enjoyment of the game. And so once you start doing that, that starts, that's the problem with microtransactions. That's the economy. That's the futzing around with the economy in order to get like a couple of extra dollars from a couple of extra people.
And I think that the evil games are eventually gonna find, water finds its own level, and eventually the evil games are gonna filter away, and then we're gonna end up with. You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think there's too much money. I think it's up to us as media to educate people about, okay, this game, if this is a free-to-play game, what do you get at like $5? What do you get at $10? What do you get at $20? Like, what's really good about this? What's really bad about this? What do we like? What do we not like? I mean, I feel like we keep away from free-to-play games because they're sort of like free-to-play and they don't really have the same status, as it were, for like a larger title. For a game, you buy $60 and that's that. It's also really tough to follow these free-to-play games because they're always changing. They're constantly moving. Clash of Clans, when I first played it, which was about 3 years ago, is different than the Clash of Clans that you can pick up now. And so, like, you have to be on the ball. We have to be constantly reporting on these things. We have to go back and revisit these games, which I don't think media necessarily does, because who wants to hear about an old game?
So what you're saying is I just really need to rethink my faith in humanity.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're all screwed.